Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Galactic Nerd Outpost. I am your host, Joey McGee, aka Gojin the Makai Phantom, and I just burnt my fucking finger and it hurts like a son of a bitch.
He burnt it while making ramen.
Yes, because I was rushing it out to try to get to this fucking podcast, and it's like, well, that was my regret.
And hello, everyone. I'm Kaiju Cody. Happy to be back on the podcast as usual.
Yep. And as you all know, Monarch Legacy of Monsters has recently concluded with its 10th episode.
Yes, it did. And it answers some questions, kind of, sort of, but also opens up whole new ones as well. We'll be discussing that and more when we talk about the final episode and our thoughts on the show overall in this here podcast.
Yep, exactly. Which, alongside Monarch, there's also some other Godzilla news I think we should tackle. Like, I think we should give Cody a chance to finally watch New Empire's trailer and give his thoughts on that. What do you think, Cody?
I'll do the best I can with that. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I know you wanted to get around to it. It's like you weren't here when we did it on the podcast, so it's like I think it would be
because I bitched out.
Yeah, it's fine. I completely understand.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, there's a lot of Godzilla stuff coming out. Like for those who are subscribed to the channel or don't know, I did drop a new video recently, which is getting ready for this very big retrospective that I'm actually really fucking excited to talk about. Mainly because, well, as you all know, I'm a big Godzilla fan, and I don't have nearly enough reviews on that type of stuff here. So, yeah, and for those who watched the video, what did you all think?
You're a Godzilla fan? I never would have guessed.
Yeah. Yeah. And even though that video was less than 5 fucking minutes, I put a lot of effort into editing that shit, especially to gather some irrelevant clips to match somewhat with what I'm talking about that isn't Godzilla related.
Yeah, guys, please give his other videos a chance outside of the roasting videos. He puts a lot of effort into those other videos, like his actual reviews and stuff, even more so than he did in that roast of Adam Does Movie Dickhead. He puts in a lot of effort, and it shows clearly that he has a passion for it. So please try to see what the passion is about. I'm asking you.
Thank you, Cody. It is greatly appreciated.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'll expect the 20 later on.
Because, yeah, I try to make my content both informative and entertaining. I love doing the commentary videos, but I don't want to make them the bread and butter of this channel, mainly because it's like, one, when you do that, that's easy to get you blacklisted from higher creators and shit like that. Two, that's also easy to get demonetized when that's your main focus. Three, I don't want to be involved with drama 24/7. Four, my videos are more than just roasting people. Like, if you want more of that roasting type content relating to art of some sort, like gaming, go watch Griffin Gaming, though he does other types of videos besides roasting now too, or Pertenga Plays, or something outside of art related, like just roasting cringe. Check out older content like Leafy is here and shit like that. But that said, I do appreciate those who like the roasting videos. They are fun to make. I do like to kind of get out my perspective on the whole thing and debunk what I consider overall a misreading on the art or an unfair critique. But that's not the only thing I do. Like, I got 7 videos on my channel doing that.
Yeah, and besides, in this most recent commentary video, he not only talked about the guy who had that bad -1 take, he also analytically deconstructed what was wrong with it and said what was actually up. In other words, he was sort of reviewing the movie alongside deconstructing Adam just a little bit, and that aspect is expanded upon in his actual movie reviews. Like, go watch, for example, his review of Earth versus the Spider. It's honestly one of my favorite reviews he's done, despite being an arachnophobe.
Yeah, well, hey, with you being an arachnophobe, that makes the video all the more that makes the movie itself all the more creepy in your sense.
Almost definitely.
Yeah. Oh fuck, my finger still burns.
And it's a body horror movie as is, so it kind of works.
Have you ever watched Earth vs. the Spider?
Not in full. I've been trying to find like a full copy of it because I actually do want to watch it because, well, body horror deconstruction / subversion of Spider-Man. I'm down with that.
Well, I mean, if you want to watch watch it on a boat, I do have the link to Internet Archive on my YouTube channel.
We'll see. We'll see.
Okay, 1 minute. I'm gathering the images for what we're talking about, like getting them on the screens. Okay. Thank God, we're just beginning. Okay, so got 2 more images to grab. Okay, but that said, let's go into the new Empire trailer, so people have time to go into what they came here for. If that makes sense.
Oh, really? Really? Okay, I was not expecting that, but
well, hey, your choice. I want your perspective. Do you want to do new Empire trailer first? The analysis of the episode in Monarch itself, or that other thing you wanted to talk about?
We can do the new Empire first, although actually, I think honestly think we should do the Monarch first because A, that's probably what most people will be coming here for based off the thumbnail, and B, I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. I wanted to do the new Empire thing as its own podcast because I honestly thought that it could fill up its own thing. You know how we went 3 hours on the episodes of Monarch? I honestly feel like I could fit an hour and a half talking about what's been revealed about New Empire so far. Officially, not the leaks that are still out there, which I don't want to properly address because bleh. But because if you remember, I did a series of long ass posts on Facebook. So basically, what I would be trying to do with my thoughts on the new Empire is putting those posts into an audio format.
Okay, that makes sense. So, I take in that type of podcast, it'll kind of be like New Empire in general, like also talking about stuff like the toys and things like that.
Right on, right on.
Okay, that makes sense. Let me go get my phone so I'll have my notes to look at. But
and he disappeared. So everyone, I need you to understand something about Joey. He's just a poor boy. Nobody loves him. He's just a poor boy from a poor family. Spare him his life from his monstrosity. No, I did not just quote Bohemian Rhapsody. What are you all talking about?
Okay, so gotta dig up the notes. Well, in this case, it's sort of like a script, but whatever. Okay, so let's allow you to do the summary, or whatever. Like, I'll let you go first, and then I'll follow in whatever footsteps you go in.
Bruh, let's not even try with a summary because we all know now I'm not good at them. And anyone who's coming in here for the podcast to review it should already know what to expect from it, and they should also be expecting that this is a full spoilers thing because we've been doing spoilers like right out the gate, you know?
Okay, gotcha. Can we talk about Keiko and Shaw first? Or do you think that's too far ahead?
Let's just say what we thought of this particular episode as a whole.
Okay, and then we can get into Keiko and Shaw, right?
Yes, we can get into the nitty gritty,
like the analysis on them.
the deeper details of them and everything else afterwards.
Okay. What I thought of this episode is it was absolutely fantastic. Like this and the last episode, like I enjoyed the entire series. I thought as a whole it was a very well crafted entry in the Monsterverse. And not because it took a serious direction, because like I said, 2014 took this direction and it didn't do it that great. But these final episodes raised the emotional stakes up very much when it came to character development, building up tension, and overall concluding everything as season one while still leaving more for another season to build up to. And I just really thought it did a fantastic job at doing everything and answering certain questions. Great episode. Almost gave me made me give it a near perfect score as a whole because it's like it was that good.
Right on. I enjoyed the episode too. I definitely think that these last two episodes were the best episodes of the series. It did in fact answer a whole lot of questions, but it also was the emotional high point of the show, because a lot of the actors at this point who were not doing a bad job, they can act, but it's like they were sort of breezing by. It was like a day walk at the park in terms of acting, but then the writers and directors are like, now let's see how your dramatic chops are, especially the two particular characters that Joey wants to talk about next, and the actors playing them, that is, and boy, did they ever meet those expectations. I will say that in answering the questions that they did, there were also it opened up more questions, and the actual ending of the episode also opened up more questions. So it's just like giving a big hook for a possible second season, which I am 95.6% sure we're going to get. And I also, there's some questions that I feel could have been answered a bit better.
Okay, but we can agree that this and the last two episodes are the peak of the show.
Absolutely.
Okay, but do we get into the chops?
Okay, we could do. Let's talk about Kurt Russell.
Unless you have anything more to say about the episode as a whole.
I don't think I can without getting into other details we'll be talking about individually.
Okay. So do we get into Lee, Shaw, and Keiko?
Yes, from here we will follow your notes as you wanted to.
Okay. When Lee, Shaw, and Keiko meet again, it did what I predicted, but in my opinion, that's a good thing, because it's shown how much impact this actually has had on him through his journey. And with all this being dumped on Keiko, I totally believe she's just finding out all this information. I believe Kurt is hurting to break it all to her, thus him being afraid to show his face. Like when he's hiding behind a tree and he yells Keiko's name, she's like, that doesn't sound like you. And he hates to show himself because to him, he doesn't want to break it all to her. And to him now, since he's old, he's ugly. So that broke his heart because he still had a thing for Keiko, which is a big reason he's still on this journey. Thus, and I believe Kate is also having conflicting feelings of happiness and sadness during it because, well, she finally got a chance to meet her grandmother. This episode also brought in some really good... One minute. But we're still on Kate and Keiko, but I want to go to another image. But it's like, Keiko and
Shaw.
Yeah, and Shaw, yeah. Then this episode also brought in some more humor by our boy Kurt Russell, and it once again is clever. Referring to when he says, I love the part when they're carrying this inventions thing right here, and he says, we got all the time in the world. I'm ready to go to a world with flying cars and robot butlers. It's funny. And his delivery of it was very smart ass and shows that he could still bring some natural tongue-in-cheek humor into the scene. Again, something the Monsterverse really needed, other than forced, did she just say gonorrhea? I hated that shit.
I hated it too. It doesn't hurt that Kurt Russell is just a naturally charming actor.
Well, yeah, like for example, like even like the line's well written, but even if it was poorly written, I think he can make it funny. Because, like for example, in Kong Skull Island, I'll admit there is some forced writing humor in there. Like I forgot that name. I think it was Dear Billy. That was forced, but John C. Riley delivered it so naturally, it made it funny.
Right on, right on. I would. The best thing about is it's also a layered joke. He wasn't just spouting random future sci-fi nonsense. I think he was intentionally making parallels to the Jetsons, an established thing from his character's time that he would do.
Yeah, exactly. And that, like, the best humor offers substance. And again, all the jokes in this show has had plenty of it. And that's one of the reasons I've absolutely loved it. Like that line right there, it's funny and it makes sense because the Hollow Earth time goes differently. So it's understandable why he would bring that up.
Right on, right on. I feel like we should also address how the time dilation seems to work, but we can do that after this. I gotta say, there were a few points that I wasn't entirely sure what to think of the performance by Keiko's actress, only because, well, I'm autistic, so I don't always get emotional cues. So there were times where I was like not entirely sure what emotion she was going for in her delivery. But when it came time for that dramatic interaction between her and Kurt Russell between Keiko and Lee Shaw, I knew exactly what they were trying to get across, and it all just felt so natural and so well earned. It's just like, nah, these two went on a journey both together and apart, and after being apart for so long, here they are together again, and wow, just wow. It just goes to show what we all been saying for what the smart people know from the get-go. It's not just about big monster go burr. It's not just about how much screen time does Godzilla and the monsters get. There also needs to be an emotional hook, an emotional human resonance that everyone can relate to or identify with or
At least
understand.
understand.
Yes. And they gave us that right here. We got samplings of it with Bryan Cranston's Joe Brody, but here we see it fully realized. And we see even more of it later on when Keiko is like so freaked out about, oh my gosh, here's my granddaughter. Oh, here's the guy I was once in love with, but now he's much older. Wait a minute, it's 2015, and she's freaking out so much internally to the point that she almost doesn't go back with them.
Yeah, exactly. All that has so many layers to it. And this scene in particular right here, like I loved how when Lee Shaw was explaining the current generation to her, because she's been down there for so long. It really feels like he's condensing all of this dump of information on her due to how much one minute, I'm spreading word vomit. It really feels like he's condensing all this information for her due to so much she's missed. I especially loved how fond she was, how fond of fuck. It's been a while since I've typed this. I especially was fond of how he painted Bill Randa as a hero despite taking Keiko from him back in the day. But that's because to him, it doesn't matter. To him, Bill Randa was a friend. He knows that means a lot to him. The visual of that's something that I absolutely adored with the relationship here because even though there was somewhat of a rivalry between them back in the day, Randa was his friend, and also Bill Randa was the guy that she took. So it's like, okay, I'm not gonna be spiteful. I'm gonna talk about him like he was a hero. Mention how he went down was with honor.
Yeah, something that I gotta say about that. I love how even though he was clearly upset when he found out that Bill and Keiko had a stronger connection than he did with her. Even though he was upset, he just kept calm and he soldiered on. And he's like, okay, they're my friends. I want them to be happy. I'll let them be happy. I may be upset, but keep calm and soldier on. All that. And he managed to still have a good working relationship with them. And even his friendship with Bill grew and expanded, as we saw in the last episode. It was really well done. And a few notes for him telling her about the future. I can only imagine how she must feel about when he said there's a phone that does everything you wanted to. I can only imagine what was going through her head. It must have been thinking of an old pick the phone off the hook thing. Is like contact president on the moon. That's like, was she thinking about something similar from Destroy All Monsters, where you can talk to people from the moon on the phone while also shaking hands with them with the phone or something like that?
Yeah, it definitely is a very interesting thing. And with the dynamic that's built here, even though that is a different actor playing him, being instead of his son Wyatt Russell, it's Kurt Russell himself. Again, like we said before, it feels like the same person. And despite him looking and sounding older, it still feels like the same dynamic we got in the 50s. That's why when she's like, no, I'll stay behind, he finds a way to convince her, along with Kate and all of them, to go with. And from what we know right now, of course, it seems like he was the one to unfortunately sacrifice himself. I don't think he's dead. I think he'll be back in a season 2. And that's
I think the reason they did it that way is so that if they can get Kurt Russell back, they will. But if they can't, they'll just say he's dead.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of ways that they can do it, and right now it's kind of left up for us fans to speculate and interpret what happened. But point is, the relationship, even when one of the actors is changed, it's the exact same, and it has the same weight of dynamic. Like, you could tell Keiko still, even though he's older, has the same feelings for him she did back in the day. Because even though she chose Bill Randa, because Bill Randa had a little bit more of a dynamic with her, she at the same time, she still really liked him. It was a conflicting love triangle, and that's why she didn't want him to go down. And she probably would have, if they would have came up, gotten with him.
Yeah, that connection is so strong, it kind of makes me wonder. I think Kurt Russell said in an interview that he didn't go watch his son's scenes being filmed with the cast from the past. I didn't mean to do that rhyme. I just seemed to do it on the drop of a dime. Sorry, I'll stop now.
Fine.
But in all honesty, seriously, if he didn't go watch his son's films being seen, it does make me wonder, did he take the actors for Keiko and Bill Randa and maybe take them aside and talk to them about the dynamics of him and his son's characters' relationships on the side? Or did he possibly even, probably not, because this might be too method acting for him, did he have the other actors for Bill and Keiko act out their scenes with Wyatt, with Kurt himself too?
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, it's both on him and Keiko here, because she's still able to talk to this guy exactly like she did in the past, and he's able to bring in the same vibe but older. And I feel like that is all just talent done brilliant here.
Yes. And I should have also added, I know for a fact that him and Wyatt, while he didn't watch Wyatt's scenes being filmed, as far as I know, they did at least talk to each other on the side about what their characters' arc and dynamic should be. So that's why I was wondering, did he do the same thing with Wyatt's co-stars in the flashback scenes? And because it all comes across so naturally, it really does feel like, to me, like Keiko is talking to the same character that Kurt Russell is playing as Wyatt Russell was playing in the past. It's almost interchangeable with obvious differences.
Yeah, exactly. And those differences mainly being, well, mainly being, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, the fact that he's older and more mature. And that's why I feel like, and that's why this is why I also say it's on the actors too, because I feel like Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell ended up discussing how they were gonna approach this one performance, how they were gonna work together to craft this one character. I feel like there was planning behind the scenes with both of them on how they were gonna take this approach and make it the same guy.
Oh, I know for a fact that they did, because I've been watching a lot of interviews they've been doing. They've been doing press for the show. They've been going on podcasts on YouTube together, morning talk shows, late night talk shows, talking about it, and it's always them together. I haven't seen one without the other in this case. So, and each time they always said, even though they didn't watch each other's scenes being filmed, they did go off to the side and discuss their shared character amongst themselves, which again is why I was wondering, could he have possibly done the same thing with Wyatt's co-stars from the past storyline?
Yeah, I can see that. Alice said hi. Hello, how are you today?
Hello, shalom, hola, aloha.
Yep. And also, I
Guten
gotta
Tagen.
say, but yeah, I think Kurt Russell, Wyatt Russell, and Mari Yamamoto should all win an award for this, because they brought together some absolutely heartfelt drama that just made it feel really, really good.
Yeah, and that's really saying something, considering how different the dynamics could have come across otherwise if these actors weren't so strong and good at what they did.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing I want to say is, though, in terms of the younger cast, like May and like May was with Kurt Russell here. I still feel like they didn't do much to improve May yet. Maybe that'll change on rewatch. However, I was talking with my brother, who, while thinks May is just okay, he was pointing out how she did change by how in moments in this episode, while she's got a bit of a snippy attitude, it's all in the name of fun. Like, you could tell she's joking with Kurt Russell, and yep, he's right. Though I still would like to see more done with her in the second season, but I feel like that was a nice little touch and did show some acknowledgement of growth within her character after all the shitty stuff she's done in the past.
Yeah, a little bit. I do think that wish they could have gone further, because up until this point, after episode 7, she sort of became a bit of a wallflower, sort of just went along for the ride. She wasn't a bitch anymore, but that with that loss of identity, she sort of became a persona non grata, sort of, so to speak. Up until this episode, I did like that little moment where she's like, "Don't let this get to your head, but you look good for a 90-something-year-old." And Kurt Russell just responded, "That's what they tell me." I'm like, more of that, please.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we were seeing growth within her character. I don't hate May anymore, but I feel like she could use better use than what she was after she acknowledged her flaws, and besides this episode, of course.
Yeah, and again, besides those little moments she has, when after that, as far as this episode goes, she's mostly just there to, sorry, excuse the turn of phrase, but queer bait with K, which I'm not saying anything prejudiced against that. When I say queer bait, I'm using it in the same context as ship baiting. Basically, queer baiting in this context is ship baiting, but for, gay characters.
Yeah.
They are holding hands and looking at each other fondly. I'm like, either do something about it, or like at least do something a little bit more than this, because this is all surface level shit so far, or you need to improve upon this in the second season, which again, I honestly think we're gonna get.
Yeah, I agree, because I do, like, I'm not gonna cry, "Oh, woke," because it's not woke. Like, what do I do? I don't know if I said this in a podcast before, but if I did, I'm gonna say it now. What do I define as woke? Woke is being obnoxiously progressive, which could either range from stuff saying, "Oh, straight white cisgender men bad," or a message that's shoehorned in for the sake of it, while not exactly involving the plot in any way. It's like a forced joke. It's just there for the sake. But this doesn't even have a message. Like, anything gay in this show, which there's only a few stuff, could have been changed to a straight person and it wouldn't be any different. like Kate's past, that adds more layers to her character. It might not be everyone's preference, but it's not unnecessary. It adds to her character. It adds depth on why she feels the way she does about her father. But
and the way she developed into that does have real world implications because of the fact that, well, she grew up in San Francisco. As I keep saying, San Francisco is the pride capital of the world.
Yeah, exactly. And when it comes to even the relationship with Kate and May, it's not woke, because like I said, it could have been a relationship with a guy too, and it still would have just been a forced romance. Like, it's not any more woke than the first romance between Nick and Audrey in Godzilla 98. It's just less obnoxious.
Yeah, I to build off your points about what woke is, I didn't want to address this because I don't think it deserves any more attention, but I want to build off of what more quote unquote wokeness is. To me, it's also progression without substance. It's where you take this person and make their sexual identity, their identity of gender, their whole identity as a character too, without any other substance other than perhaps being aggressive and snippy and unlikable to everyone else around you, because of the fact that, well, you feel entitled to be because you feel you being the character in this, the character feels like they're entitled to because of how shitty they perceive their sexual orientation or gender identity has been mistreated. But if it doesn't serve the plot in a good way, other than the just the aggression and the lack of personality, it's like, what's the point? You're only doing surface level shit and you're doing it very badly. Why aren't you getting into the nitty gritty of why this works for the character and why the character works for the story?
Well, oh, definitely. Like, that falls in the range of being obnoxiously progressive. This, I can see, the relationship with Kate and May is it doesn't really they're not doing much with it. But like I said, I don't think the purpose there is to check off a list as much as it is to kind of force drama between a love triangle with not Keiko, with that would make it even weirder. With Kate, Kentaro, and May. I think it's just forced in that regard. But when it comes to the past, that's not forced at all. Like, that,
not at all.
That's substance. And I'm going to say it. Anybody who feels that way, I'm going to keep saying this because it's true. Anybody who feels intimidated by a kiss like that, what am I supposed to call you but you're afraid of gay people? It's not that I'm woke, because I had an argument with someone in my Discord server about people disliking the Marvels, as Cody already knows. And it's like, I was saying people hate that movie for valid reasons. So,
yeah, the love triangle in the past, I say, works much better than the love triangle in the current storyline. It seems like it's only there to do the parallels to, like you said, to parallel the dynamic of the past characters. But other than that, it doesn't really seem to have a whole lot of substance to it, and doesn't serve the plot nearly as well as the love triangle from the past does. So I still feel that they should have done more with that aspect, developed that more.
Oh, I agree entirely. Like, when people are on about the cheating thing, it's like, if you can't get into a character who cheats, which is like, I don't know how that's an issue. Like, we could watch a redemption story like A Clockwork Orange of a terrible person who does vile things like rape and murder and forgive them in their current life. Why can't we forgive someone who cheated in their past in their current time? It's like,
characters with big flaws like that can be compelling, but it's up to the writer and the director and the actors and the editors all working in unison to justify showing those flaws and then redeeming those flaws.
Exactly, and this show offered plenty of substance for it. Now, if someone still says that I can't get into a character who did that, it's like, that's fine, that's a personal preference, and it's okay to have personal preferences when reviewing media, but it's also important to acknowledge that that's all that is a personal preference, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense as far as I'm concerned. I admit that in the past I've mixed in my personal preferences and tried to take my subjective opinions and present them as objective, which you can't do. If you're gonna go into the whole critic review analytical side of things, you have to learn the difference between objectivity and subjectivity, and you need to have a good firm understanding of what media literacy is.
Yeah, exactly. And when it comes to Keiko, there's more of enough nuance to make it where it's like, it's good writing. Like, someone could still be like, I would have preferred if they went another direction with this dynamic and made it where they weren't cheating. But it's like, that's perfectly fine. But it's like, at the end of the day, that's not up to us. This is not our vision. We are just the viewer.
Yes. You can disagree with a vision if you want to, but you have to make it abundantly clear that it's just not your bag. But it being not your bag doesn't make it automatically bad.
Yeah, exactly. But when it comes to that, when it comes to Kate in this episode, I thought they also did a really good job with it. Again, if I was to describe the two lead characters of this episode, it's the two you're seeing on screen. Those two, in my opinion, are the big focus of the episode. But when it came to Kate seeing her grandmother for the first time, you could tell that she's dumbfounded, she's happy, while also really scared. And that's one of the things that I thought they executed really beautifully. And a lot of it is thanks to her actress, Anna Sawai, for pulling all of that off.
Yeah, I gotta say something. When I said in the last podcast that I wish they hadn't brought Keiko's character back, I take it back, because this episode really did a lot to justify her surviving as she did. And in addition to her dynamics with Shaw, which we already said was masterfully crafted and masterfully executed, I also like her little dynamic she's building with Kate. It's amazing to me. She thinks because of the time dilation, which we'll get into later, she thinks she's been down there for 57 days, and then she finds out, no, that's not the case, and then Kate drops the bombshell on her, I'm your granddaughter, and her reaction to that was just so chef's kiss. It was so well handled and so well done, even though Kate is she's supposed to be the main character of the show. That's what I think, because the actress playing her name is usually the one shown first when in the opening credits when they're introducing the cast. But here she plays a good, strong supporting role to Lee Shaw and Keiko, who sort of upstage her and take over a bit. I don't know if that was by design or if it's just something that happened diegetically.
I think that was intentional. I think it's because of these two. I think it's because, you gotta remember, Cody, this episode is focusing on a major event. Like, a big reason he is on this adventure anyway, a big reason is because the loss of Keiko, and now he knows after all this time, she is still alive and well, and he's gotta break all this to her, and now they gotta catch up, and that's why the episode's focused on them, because this is based on them catching up all those years they missed together.
For sure. Also, something I think I should bring up. Joey, get the picture. The one you forgot to do last podcast, but you did every other podcast about Monarch. The one of Anna Sawai. You know the one.
Okay. Give me a second. Distract the audience for a bit, because I know this certainly is.
So, yeah. Even though I say that she's the main character, I'm not okay. I'm fine with her being upstaged here a bit, and taking the backseat, only because even though she seems to be presented a bit as the main character throughout the majority of the show, it's actually at the end of the day an ensemble thing. So it's an ensemble cast, so everyone should get their time to shine. I mean, we got an episode dedicated to May's backstory. We got one dedicated to Kentaro's, and then we just have Kate and Leash and the Monarch story from the past being the main crux of what the show is built upon. So there's that, yeah.
When it comes to what the show's built upon, I think it is what we're looking at right here. Monarch Legacy of Ass.
Yeah, that's the good stuff. I think I should also point out you can call me chauvinistic, you can call me a pig, you can call me misogynistic all you want, but I'm going to say it. Anna Sawai was absolutely beautiful, drop dead gorgeous throughout the whole show. I couldn't get over how beautiful she was every time they showed her on screen. It's just like, damn, this girl's just got natural talent, if you know what I mean. There's one of them right there.
Yep. That that great ass of hers.
Yep.
Like seriously, she's got a very, very nice ass. Curvy.
Does she got the booty? She do.
But it's like, yeah, but her acting talent was also very good. Like, I want to see more of her works because she is a talented young woman.
Yeah, one of the things I forgot to talk about is like her reaction to the way she had her character react to the situation when she first found Kaiju, and she was like so stunted because she's like, okay, I just found out my grandma's alive. What the fuck? She didn't know how to take everything, so she sort of just went along with her grandma, and her grandma had to calm her down to a certain point. But at the same time, she's talking like, "Oh, so you're part of the rescue team, right?" And she's like, "Huh? Yeah, I guess. Wait, what? What's happening?" And then Kieko's reaction when she's like, "Wait a minute, you're not part of a rescue team?" Then May comes in, and then we actually see her grab an arrow and point at them. It's like, "Who are you?" So it's just like, "Huh? You're not part of a rescue team? And who are you?" "Well, I am." "Who are you?" "I am." "Who are you?" "Well, if you put down that bow and stop interrupting me, I tell you, I'm." And then like you said, here comes the Lee Shaw to like save the moment before it could get really awkward, and Kaiju accidentally shoots her granddaughter with an arrow, and then they have their moment that we already gushed over. Everything in this episode was flowing together so well for the most part.
Yeah,
Character-wise.
I agree completely. And another thing I want to say is when it came to how the cast reacted to each other by the end, very obviously they weren't down nearly as long as they were in as long as Keiko or even Lee Shaw was, but they were still down there for like 2 years if I remember correctly. And it's like it shows because when she meets Kentaro again and her father, both of them who finally found common ground after so long, you could definitely tell everyone is happy to see each other again, and the heart that's shown on all ends. You could tell that Kentaro is very happy to see her. She's happy to see Kentaro, and their father, he's happy that she's alive, and you could tell he wants to do better. And then when it came to Lee Shaw, then when it came to Keiko and like, what's the father's name again? I'm not perfect with names.
Hiroshi.
Yeah, Hiroshi. Like when she hugged him, even though that he's an older man, it carries a very similar dynamic to, again, Lee Shaw with Keiko. Because it's like, I feel like I'm seeing a mother happy to see her son again. And I feel like I'm seeing a son happy to see his mother, who he's now older than. And that was something that overall made the moment all the more heartwarming. And honestly, despite what we see at the end, which was cool and all, that characterization with everyone involved was the highlight.
True. I do kind of wish Kate had slapped Hiroshi in the face a little bit, only to acknowledge that, well, he's kind of a shitty person to everyone. He was to Lee after Lee came back from Access Monday, and then doing the whole bigamy thing and cheating thing, and then like just abandoning everyone without an explanation. I knew he was doing important work there, but it doesn't excuse all the other shit he's done. I want a full acknowledging of Hiroshi's sins, which we kind of sort of got with when he was leaving Emiko's and Kintaro's apartment, but we didn't get it from Kate's side, so I do hope they expand on that in the second season. I'm sure is coming. It's just like, I want to see Hiroshi, what they did with Kate and her flaws, and Kintaro and his flaws, building them back up into being good people that we want to follow. I want them to do the same thing with Hiroshi. Acknowledge his flaws and then have him try to fix them.
But Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. Like, I think considering this series is short, I think they intentionally left those off to kind of delve more into them on the second season because you got to remember the circumstances here are very rough. He just started acknowledging his flaws by when he thought his daughter was dead and decided to work together with them. And then we've seen, of course, the reaction meeting each other for the first time in the first few years. So I think so we don't really get enough time to know to get everything acknowledged yet, but I think they intentionally left some off for season 2.
I can agree to an extent, but I half agree. There are times where I'm sure you've heard this said that there were moments of filler where it's like they wanted to tell this story, but they couldn't tell it as is. It's like maybe it was a demand for how many episodes they could do, or maybe they didn't know how to expand on their ideas properly to fit the 10 episode format, but there are bits and pieces of story and character stuff that are spread out thinner than they should be to an extent. And I feel like because of that show overall, I apologize, but I feel like that and a few other things keeps this first season from being a satisfying whole. It does have good things about it that are, when they're good, they're pretty good, but when they're great, they're really great. But there's also a lot that they could have done better in terms of connecting stuff and getting rid of filler.
I can agree with that. I didn't notice, like, I noticed some flaws within the show as we discussed a couple other podcasts. I didn't really notice anything I'd consider filler, but again, I just watched this show once. There's a reason when I do a Gojin review, I watch it a couple times, write a fuck ton of notes, and then I write the script and get my thoughts together. Like, this is my raw thoughts. Like, I might consider it even better when I rewatch it for a Gojin review, or I might consider it worse, or I might roughly feel the exact same I do now.
Right on, right on. Oh, I can I say something about Kintaro really quick?
Yeah, of course. All while we're looking at his half sister's ass.
That's what life is made of. Good ass.
I want to know what that nice pudgy ass is made of.
But in all seriousness, I love Kintaro's the character work done for Kintaro here because like his dad was in the last episode we sort of see his dad trying to suck him into the life with him to an extent, but then Kintaro basically told him to go get fucked to an extent. But then like when Emiko insists on Kintaro and Hiroshi having a relationship of some sort, and then Tim comes in and is like, I quit Monarch. We need to go save your sister, and so on and so forth. Kintaro finally finds the motivation to go up to his dad and be like, I'll help you with your work, but I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it because I want my sister back. The clearly defined motivation and him acting upon it is really well done and great character work. And I'm looking for more of that. We don't get it with May after episode 7, at least not as much as I would like. And we don't get to explore Hiroshi as much as I would like either. But I'm fine with that because we do so good with Bill Randa, Keiko, Lee Shaw. We do it well with Kate, and we do it well with Kintaro. More characters get good than they do get bad, which is, to me, is why I can overlook any other flaws and still say I enjoy the show, because to me, characters are what matter the most. I love character writing. I love character exploration. That's why if there's a show or a movie with a particularly weakish story or a mid story, but the character work is so well, be it writing or acting or otherwise, I can still enjoy it. And that's what's happened here. I love those characters that we talked about because they were so fully well explored, and we get justifications of the exploration that I can overlook any other flaws there might be.
Exactly. Man, I still can't get over that nice round ass of of a Kate's actress Anna Sawai. It's so round. Makes you want to smack it.
We got the. It does. We got the obligatory ass thing here, and we more than made up for it for missing it in the last podcast. You can go back to the stills from the episode now.
Hey, we didn't do it in the last podcast, so we had to make up the degeneracy for this one.
Yeah, boy!
But, yeah, everyone involved did a great job. Should we move on to, the visual effects and the monsters?
Should we talk about like the story implications for the ending before we talk about the visual effects of the monsters, or can the story implications be integrated to the monsters because of how the ending turned out?
Yeah, I think it could be integrated to the monsters. Let me get a photo of You-Know-Who first, because then we'll get into that. Reason why I say You-Know-Who, because we're going to spoil it anyway, but I want to spoil it when time hits.
The damn dirty ape.
We're not talking about you, Cody.
We're not?
Nope.
I could have sworn that was beyond the screen at the end. Maybe it was my Uncle Elroy.
Maybe. It's like, 1 minute, like it, Okay. So first thing I want to say, let me get back onto my notes. Because I end up going off them for a bit.
Wrong monster.
He still don't worry.
Wrong monster was thinking of.
We're not on the monster yet. We're not on the monster yet. First, we're going to be talking about the visual effects of the Hollow Earth. The visual effects around the Hollow Earth alone look absolutely stunning. And how they pulled this off with all this lighting and color scheme, it all looks extremely natural and well blended, especially with how it reflects on the monsters' bodies, the humans' bodies. It looks so real, and it makes me wonder if it's like a combination of a stage with digital effects enhancements.
Could be. I gotta say, I'm honestly impressed too, because like y'all who are complaining about the effects that might have been mid or off kilter in the past, y'all gonna eat those words when you see this episode if you didn't see it already, because when they get to the big stuff in terms of special effects, it's honestly on par with some of the best shots of the Monsterverse movies, and it's honestly really impressive.
Yeah, and the quote-unquote mid stuff is just a product of it being a TV show and having less money and deadline to work with. So it makes perfect sense.
Unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize that or choose to ignore it and say, well, I understand, but I still don't like it anyways because blah, 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 blah. And it's just so petty in that regard. And I'm just like, man, forget you, dude.
Yep, and it's like that. If it still turns you off, fine, but don't bitch about it, because then you're just mad that this entire show exists. Like, just imagine if we had more monster action in this show. Holy shit. Like, they've been wanting more monster action, and they would see how the CGI would look. They'd be like, it don't look on par with Godzilla versus
Kong! I know. I feel the same way, which is why it really baffles me that people aren't thinking deeper about this. Now, you could say there are some people that don't want to think and just want to turn on the TV as a distraction. But then you get those same people who try to play critic on the internet because internet's giving everyone a voice and everyone sees actual critics try to analyze stuff. And they're like, I'll just do what that guy did without having a real clear meaning of what it means to analyze and critique something like this.
Yeah, exactly. Like, when you form your perception, you gotta do critical analysis. You can't just judge everything on a surface level. Like, it's easy to say, oh, there's exposition, but here's the thing. Does the exposition make sense within the context? Or, oh, there's a joke, but does the joke make sense? Or, oh, there's political commentary, but again, does the political commentary make sense and add substance to what we're watching? It's not the entire, or the same thing about cliches or something. You gotta think deeper than that. This is not just something that you could just write thoughts down and that's it. That's why when people are like, oh, critics are just giving their opinions, it's like, that's true, but it's like, if it was just some random person giving a unsubstantial opinion, why am I putting so much work in writing my scripts?
Exactly. Which is why I'll never say anything bad about the special effects. I will acknowledge when I don't think they look as good, but don't take that as me saying that like it's bad or it ruins anything. I'm just going off of what I see visually, but that's it with a clear understanding of what they had to work with when it comes to the show, at least.
Yeah, exactly. Like Shiro Sano from GMK Godzilla said, this goes for special effects in general. Yes, Hollywood has a higher standard because money and such, but it's not about looking real. It is about showing they can do it. And what did they do with this show? Every single special effect, even the ones that look less than movie quality, shown they can do the best they can visually with what they've had.
Yeah. Something weird I gotta say about the flashback shot of Godzilla on the bridge. Now, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm actually impressed with what they were able to do. But here's the thing: when they show Godzilla from the side, he looks just like he does in the movie. But when they turn his head and he roars at Kaiju, I'll admit there is some sort of drop in quality there. Not that it's bad. It's great for a TV show, but at the same time, I'm wondering how does that work?
Well, yeah, like even though me and you use critical thinking, at the same time, we don't know everything about how art is processed. We know enough to give an analytical perspective, but at the same time, we are not special effects artists and all this stuff. So it's like, we know there's a reason for why that happened, but we don't know what it is that caused it.
Yeah, at that point, it's not really a flaw. It's more of a fascination. It's like, I find it fascinating how it could go from that and then that in the same scene, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But let's move on to the actual
But
kaiju.
as far as the effects here, though, there was almost nothing quote unquote mid about it. It was very well handled.
They really did not want to blow the road to load too early with this show. Is I think another reason why they kind of held off stuff like that, because they wanted the special effects in this episode to look as perfect as they can.
Yes, I agree. Now, Gojin, I gotta ask you something straight up, because I'm having a hard time grasping what it is. Do you think Axis Mundi is a part of the Hollow Earth, or do you think it's its own thing? Say definitively, because they imply that it might be its own thing with dialogue here from Keiko. I want to know, what do you think?
I think that I think it might be close to. I think it's close to the Hollow Earth. That's it. I don't think it's the Hollow Earth itself, but like for example, you know how you have Hell and Purgatory?
Yeah.
This is kind of like that. Only here is the Hollow Earth, and that here is Axis Mundi. That's the Hollow Earth. I think it's a specific portion of it.
Could be a thing above it. Originally, I said I thought that wasn't true, but now I don't know what to think anymore, because I'll be perfectly honest, they don't do a very good job of explaining what Axis Mundi is and how it relates to the Hollow Earth, and any answers I could give, I honestly don't think will be satisfactory, because like it's a portion actually above the Hollow Earth. It's like, why wasn't that ever discovered before or talked about before? We actually get a scan of the Earth in Godzilla vs. Kong, and it doesn't say anything about Axis Mundi's existence. It's like, oh, well, it's an interdimensional plane. It's just like, why do we need a plane on another dimension when we already have the Hollow Earth? That's sort of convoluted, don't you think? Because, like, first we have the Jules Verne's at the journey to the center of the earth. Then they add in Land of the Lost alongside of it. It's like, why did you add one when we needed the other? Well, we need to justify the time dilation. It's like, couldn't you have done it in a better way and explained it better? I mean, I personally feel like I could have done that myself. That's another thing when I say when it tries to answer questions, it also opens more in an unsatisfactory sort of way, in addition to the satisfactory way that they did at the end of the very end of the episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I totally get it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just like good continuity should not be hard to do. And I'm sorry to gripe on this, but this is a problem with the Monsterverse as a whole, that the continuity is so damn loose. Now, ultimately, it's not that big of a deal to me because the individual entries have been so enjoyable on their own, at least in my opinion, that the entertainment value justifies being able to enjoy it with despite the continuity contradictions. But I agree with the people who say that it shouldn't be there in the first place, like D-Man did, for example.
Yeah, I can get that. But it's like, yeah, that's been a problem with the Monsterverse as a whole. Though I will say, when it comes to this show does better than any other Monsterverse entry of tying together continuity, and that alone, it deserves credit.
Yeah, I especially like how they explored Bill Randa's character, showing who he was and how he got to who he was in Kong Skull Island. At first, I was like, these are two totally disconnected guys. It's like I have a hard time believing they're the same guy. But by the end of the show, I'm like, okay, I see it now.
Yeah,
they still recontextualize who he is within the show, but they do it in a way that I feel was justified.
Yeah, exactly. But I do want to say, when it comes to the Iron Bat has become my favorite original Monsterverse kaiju, and I make it abundantly clear it's original because it's like there's no way this fucker is better than Godzilla, Kong, Ghidorah, Rodan, or even Mothra. But it is my favorite original Monsterverse kaiju. First off, in a technical sense, it looked amazing. From the shining lights of the hollow earth reflecting off its body, and the overall design, I just found to be really cool. Also, not sure if this is intentional, but anybody else think the roar sounded a lot like the bat from Godzilla the series? And before anybody makes assumptions about me, I'm not obsessed with Godzilla the series or anything. It's a good show. I like it. I don't love it. But I did notice similarities between this monster's design and Roar and that one's.
Honestly, it looks like to me a culmination of several different kaiju. The bat, like you said, but also Gaios from the Gamera series, and also like Kamazot from the One Kong comic book. It looks like it's all those looks and sounds like all those characters put together, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can get that entirely. But what do you think?
I would say that I did enjoy it, but at the same time, thinking about it, the Ion Dragon is thinking about how we all built him up to be the big bad. It's kind of hilarious because he doesn't really do anything except for to justify calling him the big bad of the first season, except for glimpses here and there until the end, where he's less so an antagonist and more so an obstacle to get around, and they got around him in the most badass way.
Yeah, well, when it comes to the Ion Dragon, he's the biggest threat the humans have seen. But of course, to Godzilla, he ain't shit. But
yeah, I gotta say straight up, I don't. The fight was so fucking awesome. It was so cool to see Godzilla be as badass as G fans like him to be, but in a justified way. Because when I look at the Ion Dragon, we should all know that, well, he ain't nothing to Godzilla.
Yeah, exactly. And I just have to say, someone probably upset by the duration of the fight with Godzilla. But here's the thing. If we get the lizard dick out of the mouths for a second, it makes sense. Godzilla is way bigger, and his entire purpose was to be the big savior to our characters. It does its job at delivering the build-up Godzilla hype while giving him just enough of a challenge. It's just overall a really cool fight, and since he was portrayed as a threat, it makes it when Godzilla shows up, it makes you're like, yes, go get him. And that's where it serves its purpose. He's not supposed to be a major threat to Godzilla. It's supposed to show how cool Godzilla is. It's kind of like before Monster X comes in Godzilla Final Wars. All the monsters in Godzilla's way is to show off how cool and badass Godzilla is, making the narrative more action-packed. While, of course, Kaiser Ghidorah was there to bring in the challenge.
Yeah, something that really boggles my mind when it comes to Godzilla fan. When it comes to big crossover stuff, well, like fighting the Power Rangers or whatever, they want Godzilla to be this big, unstoppable thing because, well, oh, that justifies him being our favorite character and so. But then when they go and turn around and do it here in the show in a justified way, they're all like, oh, but it was too short. It's just like, what do you people want? What do you people want out of Godzilla? He's doing the best he can, but all you do is keep pulling him in all these different directions. It ain't right.
Exactly. It's like there's perfect justification here.
Yes. And I get about those comic books. I understand why it would make sense to make Godzilla so powerful in those comics because he's supposed to be a more antagonistic force, and it gives the good characters a bigger obstacle to try to climb when going up against Godzilla. But so it makes sense in that context, and it's not just for me be like, oh, he's my favorite character, so he has to be the most powerful. Because I'm going to tell you all something that y'all need to hear. There are thousands of characters out there who, if you were going to put Godzilla against, it makes more logical sense to write it to where those characters would win instead of Godzilla, like Goku from Dragon Ball.
I think it depends on the incarnation you put Goku against. To be honest, like when it comes to Heisei.
I agree full-heartedly. There's a lot of layers to it that people don't really get into, either because they want to be willfully ignorant or because like they're so obsessed with their character being the one who should win that they don't give the other character enough of a chance.
Yeah, exactly. Like generally when it comes to a lot of death battles, for example, there's feats you can pull from, like, for example, Godzilla versus Superman. There's feats you can pull from Superman to make it where he sweeps Godzilla, and there's feats you can pull from Godzilla to where he sweeps Superman. And judging by the context we got in that comic book, the writer chose the context from Godzilla lore he could use to beat Superman, and that is being faster than how he seems, his brute strength, the radiation, and stuff like that.
And the high endurance and stamina. Too.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, I gotta say this. At the end of the day, it's just fiction. It's not that deep. This is all supposed to be fun, people.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the whole reason I'm into the whole... Like, some people think that I'm very high up in the whole critical analysis game. It's like, you know why I like critically analyzing media? It's because I love media, I'm fascinated by it, and I want to learn more about it. I don't see myself as this higher being better than anybody else. I just talk about what I think is right, because I'm fascinated with the mediums.
Absolutely. I agree full-heartedly. I feel exactly the same way. I couldn't have said it better myself, brother. Fucking yeah, rock on.
I appreciate it. But yeah, as a whole, these are my notes for this episode in particular, but I think it's a fantastic episode.
Yeah, I will, like I said, the length of the fight is totally justified, but even for the glimpses we got of it, it was so fun. It was so fucking cool seeing Godzilla whip the Ion Dragon's ass the way he did. And it was cool seeing the Ion Dragon get in the few licks that he did, so it wasn't just a one-sided fight. Hell, he vomited it on Godzilla's face at some point when he was doing the atomic blast.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it was about the fight as some Ultra battles, I think.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
And that's the thing. It's like people don't bitch about it in Ultraman. It's like, why is it a problem with Godzilla? And it's like, now don't get me wrong, with Ultraman, often they're able to fit a little more tension in there to give Ultraman a fight, and sometimes Ultraman fucking dies, like in the original show. But at the same time, we're still talking about length here, and again, we still get a few hits on Godzilla from the Ion Dragon. And the fight here, again, isn't supposed to be to raise a bunch of tension. It's supposed to be like, yes, go get him, Godzilla. Save the day. Have our characters get out alive. And it nails that.
I think now I can imagine some people are going to say, well, they should have justified it more by having more fights like that throughout the show. And it's like, dude, get bent.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, like, if you want more monster action, and I'll be honest, if I was making this show, I probably would add a little bit more monster action, even if it would cause it to look a little less movie quality. But at the same time, I didn't. I'm not the artist here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna criticize the artist for not using my vision.
You know, something I personally think would be a good idea. I know no one else in the world would ever agree with me. If people really want their big monster go burr Monsterverse show, here's what they should do. They should make a half-hour children's live-action show with a specific group of characters and have them do all the human stuff, and then contact Toho or Super Raya or someone and commission them to do the monster go burr action scenes, and then splice them together, sort of akin to what Power Rangers does.
I'd be down for that. So it'd be like a live-action Godzilla the series.
Yes. So that way they could have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like, I'm all for a episodic monster bra, but it's like, I also like this direction.
Yeah, and here's another thing.
But it's like, yeah.
You all are not trying to take what they're trying to do at face value and trying to understand what they're doing. You're just getting mad that it's not what you wanted, as Gojin has pointed out many times in the past.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll continue to point it out because, like, people are which is like, if you want to speak from a personal level, sure, but it's like, the issue is a lot of these people are acting like they're critics. So it's like, I'm going to point out your poor media literacy skills if you suck at criticizing stuff.
Yeah. If you can't analyze it for what it is, then you shouldn't analyze it at all. Like what Gojin does with the Wizard of Oz, and what I feel like I need to do with the Polygon trilogy. Because here's the thing. I don't care for what they were trying to make the Godzilla Polygon trilogy. That doesn't make it bad. But because I don't care so much, I have a hard time trying to analyze it for what it wants to be. So I feel like I have no business trying to review it, just like Gojin feels he has no business trying to review the Wizard of Oz in that same respect.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for example, with Mechagodzilla City, I can see why it was disappointing for many fans, because when they heard about Mechagodzilla, they were like, oh, cool, we're getting Mechagodzilla here, and it turns out we didn't get Mechagodzilla. The whole thing, Mechagodzilla City himself is not Mechagodzilla anymore. Mechagodzilla was in the past of the continuity of the anime trilogy. Mechagodzilla City is what those broken down parts of Mechagodzilla evolved into. It's not a Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla movie, and I think that's what many people are failing to see. And I understand why a lot of people are disappointed by that. I myself would have preferred we've seen Mechagodzilla himself, but I can see what Gen.O and all of them was going for.
I will say I do at least wish they made Mechagodzilla City a bit more dynamic in design, because as is, it's just a bunch of domes.
Oh yeah, I agree with that, but I'm just saying in terms of Mechagodzilla City in general, most people just criticize of, like, for example, you go Mechagodzilla City, whole room laughs. There's going to be no actual critique there or substance.
Right on. I agree full-heartedly. Something I also want to say about this fight, they had a good attention to detail here, because as you all know, in Axis Monday, for whatever reason, time moves differently, whether it's actually Axis Monday itself or like the gravity fields hold you in place for a certain amount of time while time slows down, but the rest of the time around it keeps going at the same speed, and then it spits you out in like some odd years have passed. I still don't understand it. I still wish they had explained that better. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. I don't know. But a good attention to detail here. The Godzilla design we get in this fight is not the same design we got in the desert. This is more even closer now, closer to how he looked in Godzilla King of the Monsters. And that's because in our world, 2 years have passed.
Yeah, exactly.
So I appreciate that attention to detail. So you said you did all the notes that you wanted to do on this episode.
I want to say one more thing now that you mention it. I know this show's a little bit more subtle about it, which is why, again, me and you point out multiple times, you got to pay attention to detail if you're going to judge art. But when it comes to Godzilla, they really tie in the evolution concept a lot more than any of the movies has. Because, for example, we had Godzilla 2014, which was the introduction, and in King of the Monsters, we see his design changed a bit, but it's not really acknowledged within the lore that he's evolving. Same with Godzilla vs. Kong, when his design is a smidge different, particularly in terms of the eyes and such. But now that New Empire is establishing that he evolves, this show is taking place within the different timelines of Godzilla. It shows him going from how he looked in the 50s to how he did in 2014, how he looked after 2014, slightly resembling the like, for example, having the 2019 Godzilla elements in there and stuff like that to kind of build up to King of the Monsters.
And then here we have it basically coming full circle to where he's more or less that design from King of the Monsters.
Yeah, but still not exact because he's still evolving, which is one of the things I really appreciate. It's subtlety, but it's executed brilliantly when you get an eye on how Godzilla looks throughout the show. And that was great for the lore here.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's why I'll never say that Monarch is terrible or anything, because as it does tighten the continuity better in other parts where others it left a little bit loose. You know what the Monarch reminds me of? Here's the visual aid I have for it. Monarch to me is like Daffy Duck hanging off a harness in front of a dam, trying to fix the leaks in the dam. But when it fixes two, another one pops up, and then he has to try to fix that one. That's what the continuity brought up in Monarch reminds me of.
Yeah, I'd say that's about right. But hey, that's more than can be said about any other Monsterverse entry, so it's like, while it still must be criticized, it also should be given applaud for doing something right in eras and doing something the other Monsterverse stuff haven't, especially the Skull Island series. That did absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that's why I would say Monarch, maybe the scripts for Monarch maybe needed one more draft, whereas I feel like the scripts for the Skull Island anime needed 3 more drafts.
Yeah, like the Skull Island anime, when I watched it, I thought it was good, but now more I think about it, it's just mid. It's average. Maybe I need to watch it again, which I will at some point for review purposes, but more I think about it, it's like Skull Island's middle of the road.
For sure, for sure. The very definition of mid.
But now let's go on to the series as a whole. Since
wait a minute, there's actually more we could talk about this episode.
Oh, there is? Okay, let's do it.
Yeah. For example, what's going on with Monarch and the big event that they're trying to stop. They were very
extra thing at the end.
Yes. And I was trying to save that for the end. The damn dirty ape.
Or the end of the episode.
The end of the episode analysis. I'm sorry.
Okay. We almost got off of that.
We like to get off all right.
Yep, like we do on from Anisoai's ass.
Damn right, brother. But
someone needs to be in this chat, in this call to call us out for being fucking degenerates 24/7. Like, the issue is both of us are fucking horn dogs, and there's no one here to call us out and discipline us.
Oh, I want someone to discipline me, all right.
Anisoai in particular.
Oh, yes. I want someone to come in and be like, you both are freaking degenerates. And I'd be like, the hell you say? so good. It's so good.
Are you talking about
we're an
NSOI's
hour.
ass again? Because it is.
It is. Look, we're an hour and 20 minutes in. See what I mean about how this podcast could easily be its own thing?
Yeah.
There's just, and that's because there's so much to talk about. This show is a lot, has more nuance and depth to it than people give it credit for. We still haven't even brought up Monarch and what's going on with their big gamma ray event that they're trying to prevent, and we haven't even gotten into the ending, which ties episode 7 into the overall story a lot better, which I'm thankful for. And also, Big Monkey at the end.
Yep. But it's like,
so,
you go first.
What?
Besides with who gets to do NSOI, you stay in the back, bitch.
The hell I will. Fight me, motherfucker! But in all seriousness, the Monarch event, the event that Monarch was trying to stop that prevented them from taking Tim seriously about going to find Kate and whatnot. Do you think, as everyone's theorized, that is trying to build up to the big emergence event that happened in Godzilla King of the Monsters?
I think so, because again, even though this show does create a few other holes while fixing some within the Monsterverse lore, let's not forget a big purpose of this show is to tie everything together from 2014, Skull Island, King of the Monsters, GVK, and New Empire, and for the most part, it does a good job at that. And I think
it's not entirely satisfactory, but I appreciate the effort anyways.
Yeah, so I think that is definitely the intention here, and we'll find more of that in season 2. Like, for example, there's Apex. It's like, at first I was like, that Apex introduction was gonna be substanceless when it was taking so long, but there was also elements in this episode that did acknowledge it a bit more, particularly the end, that is gonna show that, hey, there's plans to build up Apex more. And I'm glad they only threw breadcrumbs in this season, because that left them more room to develop everything else while leaving Apex for the season 2, given how it ties into Kong and GVK and such.
Yes, I agree entirely. That's why I appreciate it's efforts like that I appreciate. Like, again, all the efforts don't amount to a satisfactory whole, but they are still, for the most part, satisfactory in their own right, except for the few bad takeaways that we've already talked about.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like,
so
you go first.
No, you go first. I want to hear what you have to say.
No, I was about to move on to the special someone we see at the end, but I don't think you're done with the corporate.
No. I was going to try and move on too, but I feel like I overstepped my bounds a bit, because this started off as your podcast first, and I'm just the co-host. This is really your show, and I feel like I throw my weight around too much, me and my fat hairy ass. So I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Like, the channel's mine, and I run everything. But me and you, this podcast is our dynamic. Like, if you ever want to have a podcast with someone in specific that I don't necessarily align with, let me know, and I will get you on board.
Right on. I gotta say, I too enjoy our chemistry together. It helps make the podcast a lot of fun, and why I keep coming back, even on those times when I have my hard days, like when that time I bitched out.
Yeah. Tokubunk Production said, the final ep was good. I stand by the show is just good, not great. That's fine. I think it's a great show. It's not a perfect show, because there is flaws in terms of its attempt of world building and such, sometimes creating more holes in the lore, May not nearly being May having her flaws acknowledged, but then when they're acknowledged, her taking the back seat and just having a forced romance for the sake of it, and a few other elements here and there. But as a whole, that's why it's a great show to me. Not a perfect show. It's not Godzilla -1, but it is great.
I would say that the show comes close to greatness, but it's just one step away from it. So it's really good.
I feel like it just lands on great. If it had any more flaws, it would fall good. So I'm kind of like the opposite of you. You feel like if it takes one step ahead, it'd be great. I feel like if it took one step back, it'd just be good.
Yeah, yeah, and even so, the fact that our perspectives are so close together, but just that little bit apart, really goes to show that there is a quality worth discussing about this show, inconsistent as it might be.
Yeah, exactly. Tokubunk Productions said, but Blazer had one of the best endings ever. What universe does not have plot holes, lol? Well, there's universes with plot holes and such, but this entire show's existence is to tighten those up, so I feel like it should be pointed out in this case more than others.
For sure. And uh I guess I'll say, to re-emphasize again, I'm glad that they tied Apex back into to the show's main story and justified their presence in episode 7, even though it only ended up being at the very end, but leaves open so many possibilities, like you said, Gojin, for what they could do with it in season 2, which I hope is a tighter knit show and is
As
has
tight
a
as
tighter.
Annie Sawai's ass.
Exactly.
Oh, that's pretty damn tight. Needs some It might need some loosening up a bit. Wink, wink. God damn it!
I'm on it. Yeah, boy.
But okay. Tokubunk Productions said Blazer though was just perfection. Oh yeah, I've watched the final episode of Ultraman Blazer today. That shit was fire. Kaiju Cody needs to catch up on it. That was a really good ending. Expect a review of that show some point around very soon, alongside with my GVK Multiverse of Toku stuff. It's gonna be a little while since it's a TV show, so I'm gonna have to straighten all those notes into a script, edit and stuff like that. But I will be reviewing Ultraman Blazer, and I just want to say, besides maybe Shin Ultraman, this is the best thing Ultraman has had in years.
I certainly have enjoyed everything I've seen so far. I've been very impressed with it myself.
Tokubon Productions said, y'all watch Garo? That's amazing so far. I gotta watch Goldstorm first. Like, first I've been catching up on Hunter x Hunter, which is a really good show, by the way. But I want to watch Goldstorm before I get to that show. But once I get to Goldstorm, I will start catching up on the latest season of Garo, because I've seen clips. It looks fucking amazing, and Garo is one of my favorite franchises of all time.
I haven't seen Garo yet, so I can't say anything myself personally.
We gotta get you cultured by introducing you to Chapter of the Black Wolf. That is one of the greatest stories ever told. Perfect blend of action, horror, romance, dark fantasy, and drama. It is brilliant.
Well, we'll worry about that some other time. Let's get into the nitty gritty of the ending of this episode. Wait, I want to say one more thing. I do wish they didn't have to recontextualize the emergence event in King of the Monsters, if that is indeed what they're doing. But I still appreciate the effort of making a stronger connective storyline overall.
Yeah, definitely. But anyway, let's move on to what you all been waiting for. Oh, and it. What you've all been waiting for. Eh? It's what everyone's been waiting for. Okay. I'll stop being a degenerate for 5 minutes.
I don't believe you.
Oh god. But Kong, the big monkey. Yeah, I gotta say,
Hey, he's the monkey. People say he monkeys around, but he's too busy monkeying to put anybody down.
I was thinking more of the Donkey Kong song, the DK Crew.
Oh, sure. Now you tell me.
But I gotta say, the arrival of Kong here was done brilliant. Like, we haven't seen him any other time in the series. We've only seen Skull Island. We only seen Bill Randa, but not Kong yet. So when we had it where all this time of them coming back to the Hollow from Axis Mundi to current day, it's one of the things I really liked about it is all this stuff was currently happening while they were gone. So there's so much they could do within a season 2 since it's been 2 years. They're at Apex now, and there's that giant ape right there, and it just made something that's overwhelming in all the best ways.
Right on. Like, yeah, there's so much that we could talk about. Now, granted, it is a bit convenient that they showed up on Skull Island. If you stop, but it doesn't really matter because they had established that there might be a portal on Skull Island already as is, but and it just got covered up in Godzilla vs. Kong for whatever reason during the storm. But whatever. Convenience aside, let's analyze this. Tim quit Monarch. He's with Apex now. Kintaro and Hiroshi go with Apex too. May's worried about it because she knows what Apex was when it was AET. And just like, there's so much to unpack. There's so much potential that they could do with that setup. And it also helps set up that even though there's supposed to be a Monarch outpost on Skull Island, apparently there is one with Apex too, which does make sense in universe. Otherwise, how do you think they got those skull crawlers that they use as beta test bitches for Mechagodzilla?
I think the second season's going to explore that more because, like, how this season, this was Godzilla's story. Season 2 is going to be Kong's story and how everything goes up to GVK, how the Hollow Earth was gone. And I think we could even see how Apex got the Ghidorah skull.
We could. Two skulls, since apparently there's one in Mechagodzilla and Red Sarazawa was saying one. And for people who are saying it creates a plot hole, here's what my suggested fix. I don't know if they're going to go with it. Just say they found another severed Ghidorah head frozen in ice somewhere. That's an easy fix.
Yeah, exactly. Tokupunk Productions said... But, no, you finish?
No, you go on ahead. I'll wait until after you say what you're going to say about Tokupunk.
Tokupunk Productions said, I remember that podcast when you were high off on copium for the Kong game, roasting people who say it's Gollum 2, and it ended up being Gollum 2, and it ended up making Gollum look decent. Okay, to be fair, I was only speaking since at the time we didn't really have enough context to judge its quality. We just had, like, bits of very cut seconds of gameplay and stuff like that. I still stand by the graphics. For the most part, besides a few animations, look fine, though Kong's movement does not match with the world. But yes, I'll take an L. Rise of Kong was trash, though you're taking an L too, Tokupunk, since you were with me defending that shit.
and so was I. Yes, we're taking an L. We both sort of shit the bed because we were trying so hard to say it was good because it honestly looked like it had potential to be good. But then it comes out and turns out, no, everyone was right. This really is that bad.
Yeah, because when it came to the trailer was cut in a way where we couldn't see any major flaws of the gameplay. Mainly because people were criticizing the graphics. It's like, the graphics look okay besides the way Kong moves. Yeah, they look okay-ish. They do. Just okay-ish. But Kong's movements still look odd when it comes to the world it's in. But when it comes to how Skull Island is designed, it's like, I've seen worse. Gollum still looks way worse graphically.
Right on. How do you think, in terms of special effects, how do you think Kong looked at the end of this episode?
I'd say for TV show standards, he looks excellent. Like, we can see the fur on his body. You can tell there's layers of it. His teeth looks very sharp and bony, though I do think we could use some more drool detail on him. And also his movements are overall detailed enough. It's not on a level of how Godzilla was at his best in this show, but as we established, this is a TV show, so again, very few moments could look on par with what we got in the Monsterverse movies. And if there was more action in this show, we probably wouldn't even have those movie quality moments.
Right on, right on. I will say, part of me thinks it might look a little too slick and bright and shiny. They could have rendered it maybe a little bit better if they had a better budget and better and a longer deadline to work with. But
it's a TV
I'm
show.
okay with it. Yes, and I'm okay with it anyways because it is supposed to look a little slick and a little shiny because, well, he's soaking wet. This was happening in a rainstorm, which is partially why his fur is supposed to look the way it does right now.
Yeah, like
you got to think about those little details.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think for TV show standards, it looks great, but yeah.
Something I gotta say, I like that it pays homage to the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Kong Skull Island teaser, the original one before it was attached to the Monsterverse. Because for anyone who doesn't know, originally Kong Skull Island wasn't going to be part of the Monsterverse. It was going to be a prequel to the original 1933 Kong, or at least a version of that story.
Yep, I remember hearing about that. Though I swear it was said to be a prequel to Peter Jackson's.
Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I'm not entirely sure. A version of the story that the original and Jackson's remake tried to tell. And for a long time, no one saw the teaser outside of everyone who saw it at Comic-Con. But then somebody, unfortunately Rick the Cuck, uploaded that teaser to YouTube, and it showed exactly this. Kong making his way through forestry and whatever, and then pounding his fist and roaring as lightning strikes, just like this. Except it was a different design. This is a different design from that one, and the framing and shots are a bit different, but the actual thing that Kong's doing matches that original teaser. And it's just like the fact that they went back and made a reference to that. It's like, you didn't have to do that, but you did anyway, and I appreciate you doing that. Sort of the same thing happened with Godzilla, the way they framed him in the flashback to the Golden Gate Bridge in the show. Rather than take full inspiration from the bridge scene in 2014, they incorporated elements of the original Godzilla exclusive Comic-Con teaser trailer. The one where it has the Oppenheimer voiceover and then shows Godzilla in the mist. If you go back and look, even though it's fake to see because of the mist / smoke, whatever, Godzilla's movements in that at the end of that teaser matches a lot of his movements in the Monarch version of the San Diego Bridge attack.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Like, yeah, so the fact that they went out of their way to do that still blows my mind. It even blows my mind, especially when you think about the fact that, well, that end scene, and I suppose Monarch Season 2 takes place in 2017, the year Kong Skull Island was released in theaters.
Yeah, which I feel like was 100% intentional.
Oh, I agree full-heartedly. The fact that they incorporated elements of those two teasers I just said tells me some of this stuff is calculated and very intentional. And I think that, again, the setting of the year was one of those things.
Yeah, definitely. Tokabrunk Productions said,
so,
you finish.
No, go ahead.
Tokabrunk Productions said, I remember seeing leaked photos of it from Metha Kaiju before he became a lolcow, lol. I know that name, but I can't remember who Metha Kaiju is.
Methlo Kaiju. He makes these big, elaborate Godzilla Ultraman fan films that part of me thinks looks cool, but at the same time, there's something about them that makes me not want to check them out as much, even though in concept, part of me thinks it's cool, but at the same time, I don't know. There's just some sort of disconnect that keeps me from enjoying it, which really bothers me. You see, this how I'm a Godzilla fan. Godzilla's my favorite thing ever, so I should be able to enjoy more stuff that I don't enjoy. You know?
Yeah, I get that, but maybe that has to do with execution, because the big point of critical analysis in media is finding the intentional appeal of something, and maybe there's something in how those are crafted on why they don't appeal to you personally, or it's just one of those things where you just don't vibe with.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But it's like, yeah. Do you have anything more to say about this episode before we get on to the show as a whole?
It was. I guess I could always say, reiterate some of the things I already said. A lot of the character work here was very good, except for in some places it answers some questions, but then raises others again. And the visual effects stuff was good. Godzilla was handled well. The monster fight was great. I don't agree with Omni viewers' take that it doesn't connect enough to the story to that the show deserved it being there. I don't agree with that take at all. And I'm glad that they tied Apex back into the main story of the show. And I like that what the ending implies with it being on Skull Island. And it was great seeing Monkey Boy again. I love seeing Kong.
I do too. Like, I've always been a Kong fan. I don't know how many know this, but when I was growing up, like a little kid, I preferred Kong over Godzilla. Nowadays, I love both. I always loved both. But as a kid, it was Godzilla over Kong. Now, obviously, it's Godzilla. It's back when I was a kid, it was Kong over Godzilla. Nowadays, obviously, it's Godzilla over Kong. So it's like, yeah, it's always nice to see the big ape come and fight Godzilla. And it's like, and he's never just been a giant ape either. There's always creativity in Kong's features, even when you compare Peter Jackson's King Kong to a real ape, and that's the closest to a real ape.
I agree full-heartedly. I will admit there was a time I didn't give Kong the time of day as much, only because, well, I didn't realize how important he was, and I thought, he's just a big gorilla. Why does he matter when Godzilla's so much cooler, in my opinion? I still think Godzilla's cooler, but now I've gotten educated on how truly awesome Kong is and what an important historical figure he is in terms of cinema.
Yeah, and you know when you said that you didn't give Kong the time of day? I feel like you decided to finally give him the time of day when you experienced what he did, since no woman will give you the time of the day.
That wasn't very nice.
Neither is your face. It's not nice to look at.
Why you gotta point out things even if they are true? That's so mean. I'm gonna call my big brother on you.
But yeah, nowadays it's like I always loved both characters, but as a little kid, it was Kong over Godzilla. As a older kid / teenager, to now as an adult, I still love both, but Godzilla over Kong. But that's my personal preference. Objectively, they're both equally badass.
True. Yeah, I forgot to say, in addition to how rich his lore and mythos are and what an important historical figure he is, fictional as he is, he's also just really, really badass for the most part. The vast majority of Kong's presentation has been awesome. It was so cool to see, and I'm glad that I'm a fan of his now.
Yeah, in Peter Jackson's film, fucking masterpiece. I love the original, but in my opinion, Jackson's did it better. Not just because it expanded upon it, but because there's some flaws in the original concerning the romance between Jack and Anne that really, really needed to be touched up on.
I can agree for the most part. I do think the Peter Jackson version is better, but it also does have some pacing issues where there are bits I thought could have been cut out, characters that could have been cut out, and others that I thought could have been expanded upon. I think there was maybe just a little bit too much of the movie when there really didn't need to be. I know Peter Jackson likes his big, epic movies. I mean, this is the guy who did all 6 of the Middle Earth movies, like Lord of the Rings and Hobbit, all that. But it has to be justified, in my
Yeah, I
opinion.
can agree
And
with that.
I don't.
Though I think Jackson justified it because I always watch the extended cut, but that's me.
Hey, more power to you, bro.
I appreciate it. But go on. I think I interrupted you, so my bad.
Uh, no, I think we should actually move on to our thoughts on the show overall, like you said.
Okay, but first I want to read Tokupunk's comment. Tokupunk Production said, off topic, man, but you were so right about game dubs. I've been playing Monster Hunter World and Rise, and oh my god, they have some of the worst dubbing I've ever heard. I told ya! I made that video for a reason. Like, even when you put, the whole it's not the original voice aside and it alters the art, most dubs are very poorly acted. Like, some people will say, oh, Nier Automata has a good dub. No, it doesn't. The actress who plays Tubi in the dub just sounds like she's delivering lines for a random character. She doesn't have that nuance Yui Ishikawa brought to the character of Tubi of trying to repress her emotions because she cares so much. But in reality, as stated, she does all that because she cares. The actors completely missed the point. But it's like, yeah, let's go on to the entirety of the show, shall we? Okay, so Monarch Legacy of Monsters. In my opinion, I don't know if I'd call this peak Monsterverse as a whole, because the monster stuff in all the movies, even 2014, aside from that shitty lighting, has been top-notch, and that's why they are really good, in my opinion. King of the Monsters has a lot of flaws in terms of writing and characters, but the monster stuff, the music, and all that is so damn good. I love it. Godzilla vs. Kong has a messy, forced plot, but it has a messy plot that feels kind of disjointed, like there's more to be told than what we're seeing. But the monster stuff, again, is so good, it's hard not to love the overall product. Godzilla 2014, due to its approach having similar to this, since the characters suck in that, it leads to it feeling kind of bland. But overall, again, the human stuff isn't horrible in the movie. It's beautifully shot, has great action scenes, and Godzilla's awesome. So overall, a solid movie. But Monarch, I will say, is peak in terms of human characters. Because let me get my notes explaining why I feel this is to be the case. 1 second. Monarch has characters we gradually learn more about. There's nuance to every little bit of encounter they have. And the best thing is, nobody's perfect. One could find their flaws annoying, but there's nothing I can say or do about that since when it comes to what we find annoying, that's completely subjective. But I think objectively speaking, these are by far the best we've had, even if you disagree with some of the decisions and believe they went too far. And if I'm being honest, I can't really see the argument of someone disagreeing on a writing perspective in terms of that. At least in terms of the leads again, since we've had Serizawa, we've had Hank, and we've had Dr. Chin, mainly for her mystery. But the Monsterverse just has super mid characters. And that's fine, like they get the job done at telling the story, but that's about it usually. They do an okay job usually at moving the story when the monsters aren't around, but really what you come for to the Monsters for is its fantastic portrayal of the kaiju. The characters here were great, and the monsters, when they were on screen, though not much, were done with absolutely beautiful digital effects, some really cool and original monster designs, a awesome final battle, and I gotta say, I like the musical score too. It's overall a really good show in my opinion. It's what I feel like this does what 2014 tried, even though there's still less Godzilla here than the entirety of 2014, but whatever. But it does it so much better because we're not following a blank slate like Ford Brody, who, let's be honest, all we really have about Ford Brody was I gotta go home to my wife. Like, there's this meme of calling 2014 Where's My Wife? Which is like, I feel like that's made by someone who's like, big monster, go brr. But I can't agree with the meme to some extent because that's Ford Brody's entire character. Where's my wife? And when it comes to the actor's portrayal, I used to defend it as stoic, but now that the actor has straight up said he didn't care about the role, I'm not as defensive over him now. I still think he's a step above Brie Larson, but he's not good in 2014. This one goes for a similar tone, but develops the characters, and that is an important part, especially since the characters are the main focus here.
All right. You explained yourself very well.
Thank you.
I guess it's up to me to give my final thoughts on the show, right?
Yeah, though first I should give my rating. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. The final 2 episodes almost had me giving it a 9 because they were that fucking good. But then I realized when it comes to 9s and 10 out of 10s, like 9 out of 10s are supposed to be as close to perfect as possible without, in terms of not having nitpicks. Like for example, if there's one moment in a movie where the special effects look bad. So it's supposed to be kind of close to perfect without being such. 10 out of 10s are as perfect as a piece of media gets, but you can still nitpick some things here and there. So, but the thing is, when it comes to Monarch, there is actual flaws, and quite a few of them to point out. So if I'm being objective here, I'm going to have to go with a great 8 out of 10 score. It's a great show, not perfect. Not sure if I'd say it's the peak of the Monsterverse as a whole, but it is the peak in terms of characters by a long shot.
I guess I can agree with that. Overall, the thing that sells me most on Monarch is the character work, the writing and the acting for the most part. Some characters don't get as much meat to their arcs and their writing and their personality and all that as I would want, but the goods outweigh the bads. I've already said I'm a big characters guy, which is why I'm able to enjoy the Monsterverse films as much as I do, because in addition to Big Monster Go Brr, they also make the monsters great characters, which to me makes up for the lack of very good human characters, even though I would still like those too. And we get a lot of them here. Some fell a little bit to the wayside by the end, but have potential to be redeemed in a second season, and I sincerely hope they are. The visual effects, for the most part, are pretty damn good, especially for the budget and the deadlines they had to meet and having to stretch it out as much as I will say as they have. The soundtrack is pretty good too. A lot of times it almost sounds like Alexander Desplat came back from 2014 to do the score here, even though he didn't, because if he did, we would have heard his main motif from that movie, the dun 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 dun, which I hope we do hear again at some point in the Monsterverse because it's so damn good. But the overall story writing as a whole is very problematic. It's either stretched out too thin, it doesn't answer a lot of questions as satisfactory as we want, but it does tie more things together than it doesn't, albeit sometimes very sloppily done. That's why I say it doesn't have enough. It doesn't have enough elements to make it a satisfying whole, but it does have enough nuggets that make me think that it's enjoyable overall. And I also like the tone of the show. It starts out more serious as 2014 and does retain it to an extent, but at the same time slowly mutates, I'll say, into the sci-fi fantasy madness that the rest of the Monsterverse ended up being over time. And I appreciate that it's able to balance those two tones. That way it does act like our friend Trevor said, like the second entry missing of a Godzilla trilogy that starts with 2014 and ends with King of the Monsters before we go into Godzilla vs. Kong. So, because of all that, I have to say I give it a 7 out of 10 personally. And I give it a 7 because of the fact that, well, these flaws that are here there shouldn't be as many as there are. You are all professionals writers. You're all professional editors and directors. You get paid to do this for a living. You should not be as lazy about some of this stuff as you are. It led to plot holes and inconsistencies even within Monarch itself. Like, saying in one episode, Kentaro and May met each other 1 year before the main events of the show, but then in another episode, say they met each other 2 years before the main events of the show. That's lazy. That's unacceptable. You have to do better.
Yeah, I can agree with that. That's why it's like, even though the final episodes, I will say, are peak Monsterverse. But I can't give the show anything higher than an 8, because it's like, as fantastic as those episodes are, we're judging this show as a whole, and there is some flaws within the writing and such that needs to be pointed out.
Yeah. They say, oh, we have people here that we have a continuity person who watches all this stuff to make sure it all fits together. Bullshit. Quit lying to me.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I feel like I was too negative. I like this show. I really do. I'm just trying to get a message out there that laziness should not be tolerated. Even though, ironically, I am tolerating it because the stuff that is good is so good.
Well, you're not being negative. You're just being objective. And I know some people are going, but objective is stuff that's 100% provable. When we say we're being, again, I don't know how many times they need to explain this. When we say we're being objective, we're meaning as objective as someone can be. It's objective to an extent, but there's still some subjectivity in there. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, Wade?
Poor widow Waynes. I'm going to tell Wayne you said that, and you're probably going to think on me to Wayne too.
Well, it's true. It's like, when it comes to objectivity and media, it's like, it's a combination. It's a gray area. Like, when we say objective in media, we're meaning there's still some subjective perception in there, but we're trying to use the facts. That's what most things are in life. Most things aren't subjective or objective. Most things are somewhere in between with that gray area, if that makes sense.
Right on. I could agree with that, and I'm glad we were able to define it so well here. Even though, let's be honest, no one's going to listen. They're just going to take what they want to take from it and then try to form an argument, completely ignoring pieces of what we said, because that's what people without a paddle do.
Yeah, exactly. They straw man that shit because they don't like how the reality is. Like, I don't know how somebody could say that analyzing, like, for example, an intention is on the same level of subjective as how much I enjoyed this.
Some people, man, you know. Oh, I like Tokupunk's comment here. Why do you think there are so many responses to objective take?
When it comes to that, it's because I'll let you give your take after I'm done, Cody. But it's like, a what, Cody?
They're subjective and objective takes.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, when it comes to that, a lot of people tend to get very emotional.
No, go ahead.
Over the subject. No, you go ahead. It's like you were fading out, and I realized I was talking over you because you faded out. So you go first.
I think there might be a little bit of delay between us because you seem to be responding a little late to me. A lag, okay. That's it.
Okay. So I'll shut up for like 10 seconds to give you time to respond.
I pretty much said everything I wanted to say.
Okay, well, in terms of the whole subjective and why there's so many responses to it, is because people tend to get very emotional over that type of thing rather than actually hearing it out. And I know it's probably a meme at this point how much we bring up objective and subjective, but it's like so many people confuse the two. It's hard not to bring it up, especially around this circle.
For sure.
But it's like, yeah, I think it's a great show. Give it a watch. Like, if you don't have Apple TV, I think it's worth getting a subscription. Or if you don't feel like paying money to watch this show, I'm not gonna say, like, I would prefer if you would support it, but if you don't have the money for that type of thing, then watch it some other way. I think it's totally worth it and does a lot of what the Monsterverse failed at, especially 2014. It's a great show. 8 out of 10 in my book. But what was the other thing you wanted to talk about, Cody, on this podcast?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, good. So, something I found interesting. Toho released on Twitter and Facebook and I think Instagram, all their American social media, asking fans what Godzilla crossovers they want to see the most.
Oh, send that to me on Discord and I could put it on the screen.
I'll do the best I can.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see what we got here. Distract the fine people while I do this.
I'll do the best I can. But yeah, when it comes to Monarch, let me talk about why I think this has better things than the rest of the Monsterverse. Like, for example, Godzilla 2014 follows a one-dimensional soldier whose only purpose is to come back home to his wife, which would be fine, but the issue is they barely got a dynamic to work with, so the simplicity doesn't apply, and as everyone already said, they killed off Joe before he fully went on with his arc, and Serizawa was a great character, but he wasn't the lead. Skull Island has John C. Reilly, who makes a fun side character with a good enough motive, but admittedly, if John C. Reilly wasn't the one delivering half the jokes as good as he did, they would have stunk. Not to mention Brie Larson is the most lifeless actress you can hire to play in any piece of media. King of the Monsters develops side casts like Serizawa greatly, but the leads, while aimed to be complex, come out sloppy in areas. Like Emma's motive makes zero sense in how it connects to her dead son, and Mark has enough growth to him, given he's forced to forgive the monster who caused his son's death, but he's kinda a Gary Stu, as basically all of his predictions are correct for no reason. GVK goes for a more fun, simplistic leads you'd expect from a Fukuda Godzilla movie, but again, they come out just passable. They have enough of a dynamic, but there's no real growth or nuance to them. The Team Godzilla, while entertaining with the humor, don't have enough of a dynamic beyond just working together. Compare this to Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, another simplistic cast that's forced to work with one another due to circumstances. Yoshimura puts up with these idiots who found themselves on a ship that wasn't his, that he knew wasn't his. But due to him not being a terrible person and understands that while they aren't criminals like him, they do need to be there. He lets them stay, and through Takarada's delivery and knowledge about everything, you know he's seen a lot and eventually becomes buddies with these folks. Team Kong has some charm, has some change of view in terms of relationship, but there's no real nuance provided for it besides being in a tough situation. That's basically how I feel in terms of the Monsterverse characters. And when it comes to Monarch, they've done so much with these people.
Hey, Joey.
Huh?
I sent you the thing that you asked for on Discord.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm going to that. What's your thoughts on everything I said?
I'm going to be perfectly honest. I sort of spaced a bit because I was too focused on the task I was doing. So sorry about that.
No, don't be sorry. Like, I respect you putting greater focus on that. But, okay. Let's go
because me small brain so autistic, or me autistic brain so small, whichever one you decide, I have a hard time with multitasking sometimes.
No, I do too. That's a big reason I had that typo in my latest video title, looking like an idiot. Because,
oh, no.
well, yeah, Asperger's has part in that. And when Monarch, I'm meaning the dude Monarch, the guy with the gaming channel I've edited a few videos for and been on the podcast, he used to be known as Gaylix because he is pretty fucking gay. But but he pointed out the typo. I put began instead of begun, And when he was pointing that out, I was like, what are you talking about? Began is a word. And then I put the phone down. I was like, oh shit, he's talking about the way I used began. So I changed it to begun.
And remember, folks, this is began as in something's beginning, not began as in the unused Godzilla monster.
Yeah, exactly. But when it comes to this concept, what's your dream Godzilla crossover? They fucking know it's Gamera. Come on.
Yeah, that's pretty much what the majority of the comments said was Gamera. They had other suggestions in there too. Some didn't go for Gamera, but the mass majority of them are Gamera. But that's not what I want to talk about. My what I want to talk about is the implications of this post, because you see, 2 years ago they put out a similar post to this, asking what Godzilla crossovers people would want to see. And in that initial post from 2 years ago, you know what the main 4 results were? Gamera, Ultraman, Power Rangers, in either Justice League, Batman, or Superman, or a combination of them, basically DC. Now, we didn't get Gamera or Ultraman crossovers, but you know what we got over the next 2 years from that? A comic book crossover of Godzilla and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which has a direct sequel on the way. And we're also currently getting Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, which has the Monsterverse version of Godzilla fighting generic version of the Justice League. Oh, and Kong's there too. And now they're putting out the same thing again. Y'all see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, that this is another post to kind of test the waters of what they can do. And I think this time it will lead to something like a Gamera crossover of some sort. It could be like a movie, because I know Shusuke Kaneko said he wants to do a Gamera film again. Like, originally he came to Dai or Kadokawa with his idea, but they were already making the Gamera anime. And I think I read something where he said he wants to, if they're gonna do this, he wants to make a Gamera movie that takes place in old Japan or something. And Takashi Yamazaki, I think, said, if you do that, I'll help you with it.
I would love that. I would love that so much.
I would too. Like, Shusuke Kaneko and Takashi Yamazaki. Holy shit, dude.
Especially when you take into account that Kaneko's Godzilla movie was such a strong influence on Yamazaki's. GMK influenced -1 on so many levels. So just having those two together that are so in sync with each other and what they want out of the media they make, the possibilities could be endless.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what they're doing here. They likely are trying to see, like, hey, what can we do to this? Rather it be a comic book, a video game, whatever. Hell, even when it comes to Ultraman, we don't have a crossover with Ultraman yet, but we do have a universe with Godzilla and Ultraman together.
True. You know something I would like out of a Gamera Godzilla crossover? Here's what I think they should do. They should there's 2 things they could do. They could either connect the Gamera Heisei trilogy with GMK, set them in the same continuity, so that way it would be Kaneko's Godzilla fighting Kaneko's Gamera, which I think could be cool. Or they could make Godzilla -1 an indirect prequel to the Gamera Heisei trilogy and connect -1 to the Heisei trilogy, and then have a regenerated -1 Godzilla take on Heisei Gamera set sometime in the present day. I think that could be so cool.
You know what my idea is? It's gonna build off yours. Like, for example, GMK was a sequel to 98 and also the original Godzilla, very obviously. It only has 98 in the continuity to clown on it. But
right.
But since it's a sequel to the 54 film, which -1 takes a lot from, as like I said before, it's a loose remake, maybe they could have with that crossover where -1 replaces the 54 film in the continuity of GMK.
That could be something. That really could be something. Like there's weird what if Elseworld story where it wasn't the 54 attack that GMK spawned from, it was the -1 attack. That could be cool too. That's a great idea, Joey.
Thank you. Like with that whole universe, like have it where it starts with -1, then the Gamera trilogy, then GMK Godzilla, well, then Godzilla 98 because for the sake of clowning on it. But and then GMK Godzilla, then the versus match. That would be how I would do it.
Could be. We won't know for sure until it either happens or everybody dies and it never happens. Sorry to get dark on there, but I'm just saying.
Like I'm pretty sure this is hinting at something.
Oh, I know it's hinting at. I know this is hinting at something. I honestly think they're looking for more comic book crossovers, if I had to guess, because they could in theory have done an animated Godzilla Power Rangers movie if they really wanted to, or an animated Justice League Godzilla movie, which could still happen. We could still get an animated adaptation of the Godzilla, the Monsterverse DC Universe crossover. I mean, look what happened with Batman and versus Ninja Turtles and whatnot. But I honestly think with this one specifically, they're looking for comic books to do.
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think they're looking for anything in specific. I think it depends what they can do.
Maybe. And I honestly appreciate the effort, no matter what the end result gets, because there was a long time when Toho kept Godzilla all to itself. It's like, no, you can't play with our toys. They are ours. They are very... Toho took themselves way too seriously. Like, they're like, we can't give Godzilla to anyone else because everyone else will fuck it up. And they were sort of justified with 98 to an extent. But then you go back and you look at what they did with Dark Horse comics and the Marvel Godzilla comics and how much people like those. There's so much that they could have. It's like, what about all this good stuff? It's like, we only remember the bad stuff, so you can't do this. Oh, but if you are going to use Godzilla, you have to follow our rules specifically. And Adam Wingard's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to skirt around your rules. You say Godzilla's an unemotional god who can't feel things, so he shouldn't smile? Oh, he's not smiling. But from what I understand, the Toho is now under new management starting in either 2019 or 2020, sometime after Godzilla vs. Kong was made and filming wrapped. Toho came under new management from a younger generation who seems much more willing to let people enjoy Godzilla compared to what the old generation of Toho executives did. Because now we're getting so much fun things. We're getting the Godzilla Fest short videos, both animated and Suitmation, and now we're getting these comic book crossovers like Godzilla versus Power Rangers again, and Godzilla versus the Justice League and whatnot. So it makes me wonder, how much further are they willing to go? Could we get a Godzilla versus Gamera movie at some point? Could we get Godzilla versus Ultraman? There's so much we could do.
Yeah, there is. I'm looking forward to it. I think if we get anything of Godzilla versus Ultraman, it would probably be a Shin Japan Heroes Universe video game. You know what I would really want out of a Shin Japan Heroes Universe? Which, if anything, which I highly doubt it'll happen, a TV show like Monarch that ties all the fucking movies together beyond the subtlety Anno's able to do with the hints here and there that goes, hey, remember, we are the same universe. And I know it's not his fault. It's the companies and copyright bullshit, but come on. They could fix that.
It would be nice. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it would be nice. But because I enjoyed
the video game at some point.
True. But I do eventually want a Godzilla vs. Ultraman something. I would like a version of Godzilla to fight Ultraman, whether it's the one from the Marvel comics or whatnot, or whatever. Just a generic version of the original Ultraman against some sort of generic version of Godzilla. So long as that's done and it's well executed, I would be fine with it. Because even though I have notes, I enjoyed the Godzilla versus Power Rangers crossover comic book. I don't. I hope the sequel's better. I haven't read the Justice League thing yet. I hope we do. I hope to at some point when I collect it in trade, but I don't know if it's going to happen because I don't know how much Subaraya and Toho would be willing to play nice with each other to that extent. And also the fact that Marvel hasn't been playing nice with other comic publishers, and Disney hasn't been playing nice with anyone, and Disney owns Marvel. There's so many intricacies that keep such good ideas from happening. It's just like, get over yourselves. Hell, it's happening right now because Subaraya and Marvel are having a dick measuring contest over page time for a planned Ultraman and Marvel Universe crossover. It's just like, it boggles the mind.
Yeah, it really does. It really fucking boggles the mind. But it's
Yeah.
like, I am curious to see where this leads. But do we have anything more to say about it?
Oh, I have a lot more to say about it. I have actually a list, a top 50 list of Godzilla crossovers I personally would like to see.
Okay.
Outside of the ones that we've already gotten. I won't just read it all here. I will say I took some of the top choices from that, and I actually left a comment in the Facebook version of this post. Some of you might think I'm crazy. Some of you might think it makes sense. The four I put are Gamera, Ultraman, Transformers, and Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
It could totally work. I don't know. Do you like Sonic the Hedgehog at all? Are you a fan at all?
I've played the original game, some of it, and I had fun. The movie was fine. I do want to play more Sonic games. Like, I've been working on playing more retro games. That new one looks fucking fire. So yeah, I like what I've played of Sonic. I would not call myself a fan yet, because I want to experience more, but I like what I've experienced.
Right on. Well, if any way you slice it, no, not Godzilla. Well, him too, but Sonic has different versions. A lot of them convoluted, but can be simplified in a crossover like this. Has layers and layers of lore and mythos and characters that you can work off of that could make a crossover like this work, including like the Chaos Emeralds could be an element of it because they're like the most powerful things in Sonic's world, and Godzilla could want that power for himself. Sonic could use the power from the Chaos Emeralds to turn himself into Super Sonic and have a chance at fighting Godzilla. I don't know how you would do that, but I'm just saying a crossover like that could work, even though it's a bit outside the box.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I just think it could work. However, Transformers, on the other hand, I don't think you have to do as much in-depth trying to get around stuff. I think Transformers fits more with a crossover with Godzilla than Sonic the Hedgehog. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah. Everyone wanted this when IDW first had the Godzilla comic books rights when they first got them, because at the same time, IDW had the rights to the Transformers and G.I. Joe comics, and those were like their top sellers. That's what they were more known for. Even more so than their original output. Even weighing original content versus licensed content, the Transformers books were and G.I. Joe books were what they were most known for. So naturally, people who saw this want the crossover to happen since they were both under IDW. I know people at IDW wanted it to happen. Matt Frank wanted it to happen. He did fan art based off it while he was doing work for artwork for the Godzilla comic books. But this was at the time where Toho was like, this is Godzilla's art toy, you don't get to play with him like that. So it's just like, and now since then, IDW's lost the Transformers comic book rights. So at this day and age, a Transformers Godzilla comic book crossover would be harder to do, but I still think you could do it since, well, Boom Studios and IDW played nice to do the Godzilla Power Rangers crossover. Hasbro and Toho played nice for it too. So I'm just like, just give the people what they want. Give Godzilla me other characters from other franchises and make it and do it right. Make it compelling, or at least make it fun.
Yeah. Now, if I was to mention a top 4, I would do Gamera, obviously. Ultraman, obviously. Pacific Rim. Add that to the fucking Monsterverse Legendary. It's literally your series. Oh, and decanonize some of the bullshit Stephen DeKnight did. Like, if you're gonna kill off Mako, do it with respect. If you're gonna kill off Rally, or whatever the fuck his name is, I'm not great with names, do it with respect and actually acknowledge it. Uprising did none of that, so decanonize some of that shit. Add Pacific Rim in the universe. What I also want to see.
What was number 4?
Yeah, what was number 4? Give me a minute. You distract the audience, I think.
Right on. There's a lot of good crossovers that could be done with Godzilla. You just have to have the right people working on it. You need to give them the right creative freedom while also having a firm enough hand. That's one of the big problems when it comes to working on these kind of projects and projects of any kind. Balance. Sure, you should let the story writers, the creative people be creative, but at the same time, they might go too far, so you need to rein them in so there might need to be someone to rein them in a little bit. Much like the Monsterverse, both in the universe and meta speaking, there needs to be a good balance.
Yeah. Oh, and it was Evangelion. So basically, it's the majority of the Shin Japan Heroes universe besides Kamen Rider, and also Pacific Rim. That's my list.
Right on. So, what else can we say? Toho's doing crossovers now. They're looking for more. They probably won't do Ultraman and Gamera again for whatever reason, but they might go with the other top choices of the top 4 if there's enough demand for it, which I think there will be, at least for Transformers. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that turns out. Hopefully, we get good stuff out of it.
Agreed.
Other than that, I have nothing else to say. It was just an interesting thing that I thought deserved to be brought up.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I'm very hyped to see what we have for the future. Rather it be the season 2 of Monarch, that crossover, anything. We are eating well, guys. Be happy about this era. Anyway, that was it for this episode. Please comment your thoughts down below, and if you enjoyed it, smash that like button harder than I'd smash Anna Kawai's sexy ass. And also subscribe, check out the Discord server. There's a lot going on down there. Also, to anybody that clicked my Twitter link in the past, I updated that with my new tag, so go follow me there, alongside the other social medias. That said, oh, and also subscribe to me on Rumble, because at some point I plan to do some of these podcasts live on there while doing more edited and polished versions for YouTube. But that said, this is Gojin the Makai Phantom, leaving the building.
Stay awesome, beautiful people.